Hey, my name is Lindsay. I'm glad you stumbled upon my video, and I hope you'll stick around for this video completion. You have come to Rock Mom Life's YouTube channel. It's going to be filled with all kinds of things, whether it's family, fashion, beauty, awareness. I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to throw in what I throw in. So we'll see what happens. I've never been really into making the videos, so this is my first time doing that. So here we go. Well, I'm coming because on here because I wanted to let you in on an event that's coming up on the 15th, which is Saturday. Everybody knows this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but also it's not just breast cancer awareness, it's also Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And then there's the 15th is the Remembrance Day for them. And they're going to do this big walk in DC. It starts at 12. And they're going to push empty strollers in front of Congress to represent the babies that have lost their lives due to preventable stillbirth. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm telling you right now. I think that it needs to be discussed. It needs to be normalized. This is something doctors need to stress to the patients, and parents need to be informed. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are the voice for the voiceless. That is exactly where we need to be. Whether you are a parent of a lost child, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, cousins, friend, it doesn't matter. Or you never even been touched by this in a physical way. Getting involved is very important. We need to raise our voices up and let it be known that this is a possibility. Low risk, healthy mothers, healthy babies, everything. And it can just turn in an instant because of some preventable measure, whether it was an infection or, there was incompetent cervix where they could take care of it. But soon enough, you can prevent the delivery of a preterm baby. So they're doing this on the 15th. And also on the 15th is the International Wave of Light, where you light a candle at 7 p.m. on your specific time zone. And what it does is it has a continual light that goes all across the world in remembrance of the children and the babies that were lost. Pregnancy infant loss awareness isn't just about stillbirths, it's also about early pregnancy loss. It is about SIDS. It's let me go through here. I've actually wrote some stuff down. I got some stuff down here. So what we need to understand is that I'm getting this information from Star Legacy Foundation, their website, and I also got one from what is this one called? Pushpregnancy.org. This is all the information where I'm getting stuff. The fact Star Legacy puts it in the perspective of 1 in 4 women will lose a baby during pregnancy or infancy. That is a lot. Honestly, that's a lot. When you break it down, it says that 70 babies, a school bus full of children, will be born still today. That's scary. That is absolutely scary to me. 1 in 160 pregnancies will end in stillbirth. There's some. These are like things you can put on your social media, and some of these are really personal to children lost parents. I carried you every second of your life, and I will love you every second of mine. We need to shatter the silence and say their name. That's on here, and I think that is great. There's no foot too small that cannot leave an imprint in the world. And this is my goal, guys. My goal is to inform. I want to inform. And I want to also be someone to support you. Because I want to be able to support families or friends or anything, try to do the best I can in being there and being that advocate. A lot of people don't know, or they're too afraid to ask, or they're too uncomfortable to want to talk about it or want to hear about it. That's what I ran into a lot. That a lot of people don't want to hear about it. And unfortunately for them, we need to talk about it. And so I apologize automatically to the ones that don't want to hear it because it makes you uncomfortable. And I want to validate the ones that want to talk about it because they need to get it out and have that ears for someone to listen to their stories. We need to continue to talk about our children and say, this is my legacy. I'm going to build my legacy upon this. I'm going to build something positive upon this. I know in the beginning you don't feel like you want to build anything. You don't want to deal with it. You don't want to deal with the hurt it caused, because believe me, it is an immeasurable amount of hurt that you go through. And so stepping out of your grieving process to get to the acceptance area, because you know there's steps. You get to the acceptance. You've accepted that loss. What are we going to do with it? No, why not build something positive upon that? A personal note is that I did not want to tell anybody my story. And still to this day, I have a hard time with it. Just recently, I was asked about it. And I kind of got upset. When I got home, I got upset because I'm like, I don't need to tell anybody this. It's been so long ago. It is, and I hold it close to me. And I was told by my husband that why not share him? And that's true. Why not share him? So this is the start of it. I want to build some type of support for all of us to come together and be able to freely say our children's names. Because every year, 23,000 babies are born still every year in the United States. That's 23,000 parents, sets of parents. On top of that, you got to times that by 4 to get the grandparents and the great-grandparents and the aunts and uncles. You know, it's pretty much the whole world is affected by just these 23,000 babies that are born. So we need to change, guys. Enough's enough. We need to talk about it. Scream it from the rooftops. Do what you need to do to get your voice heard. Especially those who have had to deal with the way the doctors handle things. I was blessed with my other pregnancies that I had an amazing doctor, but my first pregnancy, not so much. And so I don't blame doctors for this, but the thing is doctors need to inform their patients. And if the doctor doesn't have that information, there are some actual true websites you can get help from. Don't just go to Wikipedia. That causes but there are websites that will help you learn more about how to prevent your loss. Kick counts are very, very important. A doctor should be telling you when you feel your baby, there should be, you need to be counting them kicks. You need to, if you haven't felt movement, call a doctor. Call the doctor. Say, you know what, I'm really worried. I haven't felt movement for this long. And see if and I'm going to tell you, you need to, I don't like to use the words demand, but that might have to be it if your doctor pushes you off, okay? Because I wish I was a little stronger and was able to do that myself. Say, no, listen, I need to be seen. Something doesn't feel right. We're carrying these babies. We know. Even if it's your first pregnancy, you know. So And anytime, if you want to post something on your social media, there's some hashtags that were suggested to use so that way it could go to the push pregnancy. Um, they'll be able to see it, and it'll be in like a queue of other pregnancy, infant loss things, such as hashtag United We Push, hashtag Big Push 2022, hashtag Because of You, My Child, hashtag, I think there was a Families for Change, hashtag Enough is Enough. We want to empower pregnancy. That's a page on there. So yeah, we need to be more proactive in that. And um, so I wrote down a couple of things that I got. Um, there, as I said before, 1 in 160 pregnancies will end in stillbirth. Many of those are classed as low risk, healthy pregnancies, no concerns. But yet no one is warning these families that stillbirth still can happen until it's too late. Parents deserve the right to know they are and their providers are doing everything possible to give their baby the best possible chance of being born alive. Basically, what we need to do is fight for our children. Straight up. That doesn't matter if they're already gone or if you're getting ready to have another baby or if your child, you have children, because we never, as parents, we never stop thinking about the safety of our children. When we're pregnant, a lot of times we don't connect safety with a pregnancy loss in a way. You're thinking, I'm keeping myself, I'm wearing my seatbelt. I am not bumping my stomach up against something. I'm preventing anybody from slamming into me. I take precautions. That's the kind of protection we do as pregnant women. But they don't tell us about the internal precautions we need to take. And that's where we need to be. So, if you feel like you're not being heard by your provider, find another provider that will listen to you. Because not all providers are equal, I have realized. And I was blessed with my second provider because I found her through another person that told me that she helped her because she had had a loss. And then she went to this doctor, and this doctor did everything she could, and ended up, the baby was okay. Her pregnancy afterwards. So, yeah, find somebody that will listen to you. Interview the doctors. When you're looking for an OB, interview them. I believe there's a website that has the questions to ask your provider. It is something that you don't want to take lightly. I'm told we don't take lightly pediatricians for our children. I've had the same pediatrician for my babies since they were born, and he is an amazing pediatrician. So when we have children, we interview pediatricians, and that also needs to be for our own personal doctors. And I know I'm rambling. I apologize for that. So, who's willing to stand up and be a voice? Who wants to be with me and advocate for the rights of these babies when it comes to preventable stillbirths? And you know what? And I'm not even just lumping that one together. I mean any stillbirth, any loss, any, whether child, infant, pregnant, it doesn't matter. Who is willing to stand up with me and say, hey, something needs to be done. Enough is enough. No more people need to be having this type of loss ever. It's a club I wish never existed. I remember when it was very raw for me, and I joined a support group online because there was no support group here, and someone said to me, welcome to our club. I wish it didn't exist. And it's true. I am very thankful there was a support group for me to join at that time. But it's also something I wish never took place. I wish we didn't need support groups for losing our children. So with that being said, that's what who's going to join me October 15th to light your candle at 7 p.m. on your time zone? Who's willing to do that with me? You don't have to be a parent or a grandparent or a cousin aunt of someone that had a baby pass. You could have never been touched by that tragedy ever. If you want to light a candle in remembrance and be advocating for these babies as well. I know on the 15th, I will be lighting my candle for my son, Gabriel Ian Smith, and for baby Smith. That was an early loss, and I don't, of course, know any details of that, of the baby, what it would, if it had been boy or girl. I always feel like it was a boy. That's what I'm lighting my candle for. Who are you gonna light your candle for? I want so badly to make everything okay for everyone. I really do. And I guess this is the start of trying. So with that being said, I hope if you stuck around this long, thank you. I appreciate you staying this long on the video. But this is going to be the part of the video that is going to be a little deep for me. And I'm sitting here telling everybody else, say their name, tell your story. So here it goes. This is my story. I was told early on in my adult life, I was like 22, I was told I never could have babies. I could not carry a baby. I could not get pregnant whatsoever at all. As I was infertile, as they put it. So I had gotten married, and 6 years into the marriage, after it was just, I did the whole, hormone therapy and all that stuff, and it didn't work. So we decided to go and become foster parents in the hopes of adoption. And it wasn't, we graduated and got certified in July of 2004, November 3rd, 2004. I was called to come pick up a 3-month-old baby boy that needed a foster home. So I was like, oh, I was so excited. Never cared for a baby before, but I was excited. And we had him for almost 2 years at the point that, well, it was about a year and a half when when we filed papers. We were told that they were terminating rights of the parents, and we were able to adopt him. And I was ecstatic. And of course, this is unheard of where we were at, that your first foster child is, number one, a baby, and number two, you adopt the baby. So I was so ecstatic. I was like, filled out all the paperwork, got it all turned in. And it was June 7th of 2006, that we were blessed with the finalization of the adoption. I was so happy. Big, huge, sent out little cards with welcome, and I was so happy, and raised him and loved him and loved on him and everything, and we had a couple other foster kids that came through. One of them from birth, we got her straight from the hospital, and I was told early on we would be able to adopt her, but that fell through, and she went and lived with a grandparent, and that was my end of foster parenting. I was done because my heart had been broken. And then few years later, we moved to another state, and at that time that marriage was dissolving, and so I had found a place I was staying, and I met this guy, and yes, dated him. And um, I told him, because we were kind of getting serious, and I told him, I was like, I can't have babies. So if you want babies, you're gonna have to figure out another thing because this isn't gonna work if you want children. And of course, he told me that it didn't matter. We could adopt. He already loves my son and called him his son. He never once said it was his stepson. My son, on occasion, we call him dad, and he loved him. Now my son lives with his dad. He's 18 now, if that tells you anything. Just turned 18 this year. He graduated high school, and he is living the best life he can, and I love him. I love him so much. He made me a mom, and I love him. He is so blessed to have him. Anyway, sorry. Every time I think about it, because it's getting closer to that time that we got him, and I always remember that day. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Well, it wasn't no time, and I found out I was pregnant. And I'm going to tell you right now, you will go through every emotion you can possibly imagine. So I wasn't feeling well. It was funny because my husband and his friend would joke around, "Oh, you're pregnant." My husband has all the pregnancy symptoms because he did. He couldn't eat his normal food. His favorite thing was Tostino's pizza pocket thingies and ranch dressing and hot sauce. But I wanted it, and I didn't eat that kind of stuff. I was Miss Health conscious, eat plain chicken and salads. But I craved olives and pizza pockets. So off, and live wire and Reese's sticks. Oh my gosh, I just fast breaks. Anyway, so they were goofing around. They were like, "Oh yeah, 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 this, that, and the other," and I was like, "Okay." So it was August. It was in August. I went to have my annual checkup. If that is where I went, they didn't say anything. They say it could be a possibility, but being so early, they don't know. They didn't have the ability to do a test, so I had to go somewhere else to get a test done. So I went and I just bought a pregnancy test off the shelf, and I didn't really kind of tell my husband I was gonna do it. So I went. He was asleep. This was August 18th. He was asleep in bed that morning. I went into the pregnancy test and I sat in the bathroom. I just sat there and I watched and I watched it and I watched it. And as it's going across, you got one line for no, a plus sign for yes on this particular one, and it's going in, it's going in, it's going in. All of a sudden, both lines show up. I had a plus sign, and it was like fast, like there was no faintness about it. It was clearly there, and I was sitting there. I cried. I laughed. I said, "This isn't real. This is a dream." I went through all these emotions, and I swear it was like only 5 minutes. I was in that bathroom. My head was exploding. And I ran out of the bathroom and I jumped on my husband. I said his name. I was like, "You better get him now because I'm pregnant." And he looks at me funny. And of course, I woke him up in the worst way possible. But he woke up and he's like, "Okay, 1 second." And he goes out to the bathroom. He comes back and he goes, "Yep, you are." And so I went and got confirmation. I went to the ER and they said, "Yeah, you're pregnant." And I'm like, "This is not possible. This is literally a dream." Well, got a doctor, the OB. I called and got, they wanted to see me. They figured I was probably roughly 9 weeks at that time. So I went in and that's about where I was, or just a little bit further along than that. And everything, I got to hear the heartbeat, which was very surreal for me first time. And so at that time, I was busting at the seams. I called my family. He went and told his family, and it was just utter chaos there for a bit. Well, my pregnancy was going along and everything. I had gone in on December 8th and had it was the 20-week ultrasound, and So I went in and found out we were having a boy. And I was so ecstatic because for some reason, I always felt a boy was going to be first. And this was years before this. And when I adopted my son, I was like, yep, there's my boy. That's the boy that I was being told about. But no, he was one, but I had another one. So when they told me boy, I was like, I know, no problem. Gotcha. And so that was December 8th, 2011. On December, no, that was December, sorry, pardon me, that was December 2nd. I got everything all twisted. December 2nd that happened because it was, I think, a Friday. By December 8th, I started having pain. Like, what I know now is it was contractions, but so I called the doctor and I said, I'm not feeling right. I'm having contractions. And see, I have felt baby movement even before you're supposed to because, oh, it was everywhere. I'm telling you, you could see it, which is the craziest feeling. But um, my doctor just told me, lay down, drink water. I'm like, I drink water all the time. I drink like a gallon of water a day. So I laid down and drank water. I did that for the day. And then second day came and then and he's like, well, it started on the 7th, and then by the 9th, it was like, okay, it's still not going away. I'm laying down, I'm drinking, I'm trying to take it easy. Doctor says, okay, come in. So 3 days, after 3 days, he finally has me come in. He was like, we're gonna check you and see what's going on. And so he did an internal check, and he's like, I can see the amniotic sac. And I'm just like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means. And he's like, we're going to have to do an ultrasound and see where you're at. And I was like, okay. Well, he told me, go home, lay in bed, don't move, lay in bed, take this medication that should stop the labor, and then you'll come in later today. This was on Friday, later today, and get an ultrasound because they had to schedule it. And I'm thinking, why can't you do it now? But anyway. So they scheduled it. I went in later. I had the ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech was like, oh my goodness. You need to go up to labor and delivery like right now. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? And she kind of showed me the way the dilation and everything. And I was already dilating. I don't know if I was like 3 or 4, I think. Well, she took me up to labor and delivery. Labor and delivery sent me home. They said, your doctor said, stay home, stay in bed. So I went, take the medication. Medication did not work. I could not get any relief at all. And so on the 10th, which was a Saturday, I believe it was, my husband took me to the hospital, to the ER, which they took me to labor and delivery. They did an internal check. Yes, you're dilating. Yes, this, that, and the other. And their goal was to get me to 24 weeks to send me to Salt Lake. Because that's the closest one that has a neonatal intensive care unit that could take care of this tiny little being that's going to enter the world. So, and plus a better chance of survival at 24 weeks. So I was like, okay. So I went home. I did not go home. I went to my in-laws' house and laid on their hide bed. My husband and his friend went and got all my stuff and brought it to the house. And I just could not get comfortable. But they brought my computer, and of course, like most people, I go down the rabbit hole. What's the youngest baby to be born that survived? What's this with this? And it was giving me some type of hope because, like, the earliest one at that time was, I think, 21 weeks. And yes, there was some medical issues that happened, but this baby lived. And that was my thing. Baby lived. I can deal with any kind of mental, cognitive, whatever disability. I'll deal with it. I just want him here. So they again, sent me home. And the thing what struck me awful for that was, you will have him at home. Don't come back. You will have him at home. And I'm like, you're telling me to go home, have a baby with no medical care? Yeah, not happening, right? Well, I started having such bad pain. I told my husband, I said, will you please help me get in the tub? I want to get in hot water. Maybe it'll help. So we go to the bathroom to do that, and I had started to show more signs of being in labor. And he's like, we're going back to the hospital, and they are going to keep you. So that's what I did. He took me back. He's like, keep her here. We're not going back home. We're going to stay. So they get me a room. I remember the room number is 222. It was across, right catty corner from the nurse's station. And they hooked me up to all this stuff, wires, IVs, and they were going to give me medication to try to stop the labor. And they wanted to tilt me in a bed to try to keep me like this, and hope to do this for the next 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Anything to get the baby here safely. Well, it got to the point the labor just would not stop. And it was erratic. It wasn't like continuous regular labor. It was erratic labor pains. And so they decided to go ahead and start full on labor. They're like, well, you're gonna have to have birth. You're gonna give birth to him today or whenever, and so we're gonna just go ahead and do it. And just to let you know, again, we will not do any life-saving measures for your baby. Speechless, right? I don't know. I went into this place. I was just crying and crying and crying, and they're like, we're going to give you pain medication. You can have whatever pain medication you want. What do you want? And I'm just sitting here going, what's the safest one to have when you have a baby? And they're like, they told me basically, it doesn't matter what you have, this baby's not going to survive. Flat out. The word you want to hear is number one is the first time pregnant mom, and everything else. And so I went in there thinking that they were going to do everything they could to save him, and I was totally wrong. They did everything in their way to possibly have him be born and not help. So they gave me the Pitocin to start labor. And so I am in labor, and it was getting on to be, like midnight, 1 o'clock, somewhere around in that area. They come in and they take me off the fetal monitor and said, we're not picking up a heart rate now. And I'm like, I heard it. I knew what his heart rate sounded like comparative to mine. I know what it sounds like. And they were like, nope, he's already gone. We're going to take you off. There's no need to have this on. And I'm just like, hysterical, right? Like any parent would be. And so I had the doctors and the nurses coming in, checking me every so often. And I think I got to like 8 centimeters roughly, I believe they said. And the doctor says, oh, well, we can go ahead and we can do this now. We don't need to wait. So they had the head of the OB department in there. They had another doctor, and they had 2 nurses and a bunch of stuff on this little table. And so I was like, okay. And they tried to give me an epidural. It wasn't working quite right, but then they finally got it numb all the way down. And so I have my baby. Like one little push and the baby was out, right? They covered him so fast, didn't get to see him, and then they did what they needed to do to me, and that's where it was like 10 minutes or something. And they finally asked me if I wanted to hold him, and I said yes. And as they hand him to me, this little tiny human, they hand to me, I swear I saw his chest rise and fall, and that was it. I swear he took a breath, which I'm told that he didn't, that it's just natural or whatever. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you didn't let me hold him, give him comfort in his last moments of life because I'm his mom and that's what he needs to be. So they hand him to me, and I'm just looking at this little being that I could hold like this, perfectly formed in every way. Perfect hands, perfect feet. The feet of his dad, he had the same high arch feet. I could see my husband's facial features and his face. And I'm looking at him and I'm going, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I look down at him and I'm like, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I counted his fingers, I counted his toes, and I stared at his face just to remember every single line of his face, of his arms, of his body, because I did not want to ever lose that memory. So, um, just give me a minute. All right, I'm back. I'm sorry. I just had to take a minute. And so I'm holding him in this little blanket, and I'm astonished, on what a baby at that time looked like. I was basically 22 weeks is what they put on his certificate of stillbirth. But I look at him, I'm like, he's perfectly formed. He was almost weighed a pound. He was like 10 inches, 11 inches long, and perfectly formed. The only issue I had is that I didn't get to see his eyes open because they don't. And so I never knew what that would look like. And so, but he had a tiny bit of white hair, which I was surprised to see. But more than anything, I would wanted to hold him in his last moments, to let him know his mommy loved him more than anything, and still does. His his life meant something, whether it was he was alive or he was gone. It meant something, and I want to build something on that. I want to be able to say, you know what, I gave birth to my son Gabriel Ian Smith on December 11th 2011 at 5:16 a.m. He was born and he went to heaven that same time. So as I was in the hospital and they let me hold him and they let me see him, I was by myself at one point, and I was in this hospital room with him and me only in there. And I felt God. I felt this absolute warmth come over me. Almost like someone that was just comforting me, telling me it was going to be okay. And for those of you that are here meeting me for the first time, I did not believe in God at those moments. I had a lot of issue with that. But that day I had found him through him. So, yeah. But I was lucky enough to get pictures. I'm sure they're not the best, but at least it's of him. I got molds of his hand and feet. They're just like this big. I wish I had them. I'd show them to you right now, but they're packed away. I don't want them broke. Um, I got a little box that had some memory things in it. So that was the birth of my son. Once the funeral home came to pick him up, It was time for me to leave. And leaving there without him was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. When I left him, I felt like I was leaving a piece of me behind. A piece of my heart was left behind. And when you're being wheeled out of the maternity ward and you hear babies crying, it is so difficult. I went home, crawled in bed, and I stayed there for a while, to be honest. It's taken me almost 11 years to get to a point that I don't freak out when I tell the story. I don't automatically go to crying anymore. I do sometimes, but right now I just want to share my story to let you know you're not alone. I'm here to listen to your story. You can always comment on this video and let me know your story. I will put my socials and email in the description of this video. I'm sorry it took so long to get there. I know this is a long video for a first time video. I'm telling you, I apologize, but it kind of took a turn that I wasn't expecting. So I hope that you guys are having a wonderful day. Please make good choices. Please be safe. Please be informed. And please be kind. I love every single one of you. I am so glad you came and you found this channel, and I hope you go on this journey with me. Take care, much love, and God bless.